This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. Here's your host, Corey Tusick.
This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. On today's episode, I spoke with Dennis Porter. Dennis, you might have seen him online talking on Twitter. His handle is @TheMachineBuilt. He has a podcast called Smart People Shit. And he's been in the Bitcoin space here for probably 4-ish years, a little bit more maybe. So I had him on because I wanted to get, he's a newer podcaster, but he's been in the space longer than I am. So I wanted to get some of his perspective there. And also, we had a good conversation about what it's like to do that. And then also his Smart People Shit show has a little bit of a health appeal to it, where, he talks about kind of like biohacking and stuff like that. And it's helped him get through, epilepsy and stuff like that and deal with all that. So, I thought we had a good conversation. It was fun to, hear his perspective and thoughts on things that are going on in the Bitcoin world, and also kind of antagonizing Elon and stuff like that. So, but I hope you enjoy the show. If you want to reach out on Twitter, it's @BitcoinSimply. In the email, if you email me, it's bitcoinmadesimplepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks. So your girls went to Shippensburg, which is by Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then are you born and raised West Coast, or you transplant?
Yep. Portland, born in Portland, lived in Vancouver, up north of that, across the river in Washington for most of my life till I was about 16. Then we moved to Juarez, Mexico for 3 years, my family.
Okay.
They do missions. They have done missions. They're still doing missions. We lived there for 3 years there, but now they live down in El Salvador. But now I'm back up in. After that, I moved back up to Portland, and I've pretty much been here the whole time since then.
And so I guess you've been going out at night and taking nice leisurely walks around the city the last year or so.
Yeah, that's about all you could do. I got into bike riding for a little while. My buddy was a big cyclist, and lots of cycling roads and paths out here. So I got one of those road bikes and the spandex and just started hauling around, having fun. But dude, honestly, I kind of stopped biking though, because it's so dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. I got hit by a car.
You'd have to have like a Molotov cocktail with you, just like so that people would think you're like in with like the riots and everything. So, okay, he's cool.
Not only are they trying to run you over just regularly in whatever city you are in, because people just hate bicyclists wherever you go. And the bigger the truck too, the worse it gets. But in Portland, there were some times when I'd be riding around, and I mean, you look like you have money when you have a bike and you're in spandex, no matter how you could have the most garbage bike and the most garbage spandex. And, you're driving next to a guy that's living in a tent and they're eyeballing you. One time we were riding through downtown, my buddy just took the wrong turn. And I mean, everybody was staring at us. I was like, dude, we need to get out of here right now.
Yeah. We just entered the opening scene of an NCIS or something like that.
No, you got it exactly right. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It got pretty bad here for a while over in Portland. So we had lots of riots, I was lucky to never have us get targeted, because they would pretty much just target anybody that got in their path.
Yeah. That's what was there. There was a little bit of one last summer in Pittsburgh for like a week, or like there was like one day, and it was so bad. And I had kind of been planning on buying some more like ammo and adding to my stockpile, if you will.
Sure, yeah.
My Second Amendment stockpile.
Yes.
It's when that happened, I was like, let me go to the store the next day. And like I walked in, I got to the store. It was like a sporting goods store, not like a gun store. I got there 5 minutes after it opened, and it was a like Tuesday morning or something. And the line was like 7 deep. Everybody that was in there was all back at like the firearms, and I was just like, and it was like black, white, Indian, like and the more people came behind me, and we were just all sitting there looking at each other, like shrugging, like, yeah, shit's crazy, man. Like, I don't know what to it's like, I'm about handling this. I'm not gonna sit around and just let people come after me.
Of course, no. Yeah, you got to, if you have the ability to defend yourself, then you definitely need to. Same thing happened here in Portland. Ammo was sold out pretty much instantaneously. My buddy actually was really good. I have a friend who's kind of like he kind of always has his finger on the pulse and knows what's coming. So we went early before the line started, and we were able, but they were still only selling like limited amounts. Like you could only get one box of one type of ammo. Not like a small one, like a big box of ammo. And then shit started taking off, and we were like going back to get more, and it was gone, and it was game over. And all of the home defense stuff was just completely sold out. So
it's crazy times we live in. It's funny. I have a friend in he's like incognito, so like he doesn't exist on the internet. And he nailed COVID. He nailed it in January of 2020.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, like this is coming. And he was like kind of freaking out. He was like, why is nobody talking about this? He was like, this is going to be a big deal. And then once it got here and we saw that it wasn't like people dropping dead in the streets, he was like, I mean, we need to, take precautions and like be careful, but like, he's like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I told him, I texted him like during like the first 2 weeks of lockdown, I said, so what's next? And he predicted like everything. Like me and him recently went back and looked at the text, and he was like, and he called the riots. He was like, I don't know what it's going to be over, but the unrest will come from people sitting inside. He's like one of the smartest people I know. And he was like, people sitting in their houses, paranoia, all that kind of stuff will be rising up. And then there will be something that lights the match. And there will be, widespread riots and unrest in the streets. And I was like, well, all right, he nailed that. Like, so now I'm just like, I like look at him like, hey, anything else going on? You want to tell me about? Like,
let me know. Just shoot me. You should just do a newsletter real quick and have it, put it out once a week and let us know what's going to happen, what's coming up.
Yeah, I was like, you never know too. Like, I was like, is he gonna? Because like that you saw with like, I'm sure you saw that person on 4chan that posted and said that they were like predicting the sell off a couple days ago. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And they like predicted it like perfectly to the exact number even.
Yeah.
Did you see? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, so you look at those and you're like, okay, were you really good at nailing it? Like, let me hear your next idea. Because it's like, if they're like, all right, well, President Zorp is going to, come out through the ground and, absorb us all through, plasma rays and stuff, will be like, all right, like, all right, you nailed one thing, but yeah. So, I mean, what do you think about what's going on right now, man? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan of FUD. I think that it brings a lot of eyeballs into the marketplace. 2017, we got the China FUD. We got the energy FUD. 2017 was when I came around, and I was an offline person at first and have been for pretty much this whole time. But I jumped online to kind of watch the conversation and see what was happening because I was really concerned. I was like, I just got into this thing, and now it's like the whole thing's exploding. So I jumped online, jumped on Reddit, and I read the arguments that people were making. I read both sides with an open mind, just because I was so new to Bitcoin. I had just gotten into it, but I didn't really understand it at all. I just thought that it was cool for banking the unbanked. I was listening to Andreas and, NGU technology. I always loved that. But I read the arguments, and someone who I consider myself a critical thinker, I was able to look at them and go, I believe, it was big blocks versus small blocks. I'm like, I believe we need to have small blocks. I believe we need to maintain decentralization. I think that's the most important part, arguably one of the most important parts of Bitcoin. Otherwise, everything else falls, right? And I think the same thing is going to happen today, but you're going to see other people come into the Bitcoin community. So that's why I'm very excited, because that's what brought me in 2017. I think you're going to see Bitcoiners who are very great at fighting and making arguments and have some of the best arguments and some of the brightest people in the world, in my opinion, working to defend it. And I think that you're going to have people that are on the other side, like whatever it is. I'm not saying the other side technically even really, but people that don't think Bitcoin is good right now, maybe, or maybe they just bought into Bitcoin, but they have an affinity for some of this environmental, for some of what the environmentalists are pushing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that that's very important to them, right? They're going to read the arguments back and forth, and they're going to be even more convinced, and they're going to become long-term hodlers because as you know, and as you've seen in the arguments that are being put forth about Bitcoin, it's actually going to drive, in my opinion, I don't know what yours is. I'm sure it's probably pretty similar, but Bitcoin is going to drive a revolution in green energy production and renewable energy production. My opinion, I think we already see that happening. I think you see a lot of miners moving towards renewable and green energy because, as everyone knows, those are the cheapest forms of energy on the planet, and miners don't care. They only want cheap energy. So I think you're going to see more and more things move that way. Also, with what's going on with the flared gas, we're actually eliminating carbon for, well, it would be methane, right? But which is even worse for the environment. Yeah. It's 24 times worse for as a greenhouse gas emission. Greenhouse gas, it's much more potent. And we are eliminating that as a problem because with the flared gas, even when you burn it off, it's, you're sometimes only getting as much as 30%. And these oil and gas providers have to shut down. I mean, I think in my opinion that when all the arguments are laid on the table as they already are being right now, and outsiders and people that are inside who have an affinity for that issue are going to look at the arguments and are going to go, holy shit, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the energy sector. No guilt or shaming people into using less or reducing their carbon footprint. It could ever have an impact that this sort of an incentive, in my opinion, I believe will have an impact.
Yeah, I think that like part of it is like, it's almost like the FUD, instead of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, it's 1 step back, 2 steps forward. So it's like the FUD comes at you and like tries to scare everybody, and it does initially, but then enough people get educated, enough smart people are like, wait a minute, like this, they can shoot holes through all the arguments and be like, yeah, this is baseless. Like, and so then they take 2 steps forward because you now have a new group of people, like you said, that have now been solidified as hodlers. So yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And I think, I also love buying it cheaper.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, like
FUD the market, drop that price down. I mean, that's the thing, right? Too, is like once you understand Bitcoin, you don't care then the price goes down anymore. Once you've been into the full cycle, especially for a full cycle like I have now, you really just don't care anymore. You're partly because you're so protected by so much, of a price barrier, right? That it's not that big of a deal to you, but also because you're just like super stoked to buy cheap sats.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like a huge buy order sitting at 32.5. Just I'm praying. It's like I'm gonna buy it anyways.
Drop.
Yeah, it's like I was like, let's just see if people get scared enough, because I don't care if I buy it at like 45 or 50. I'll buy it at whatever price. But I figured, I was like, let's just throw that there, let it sit and see what happens. Like I hope, I'm just waiting one of these days I'll like go to sleep and wake up and see like a nice wick that just went down, picked up my buy order, and then turned right around. I've had a couple of those, and those are always great. So Dennis, how'd you get into Bitcoin? Like you said, you came in 2017, right?
Yeah, it was just some random dude that wasn't my friend at the time started telling me how, with what was going on with the, what is it called? The website that you could buy, Silk Road, right? The Silk Road.
Yeah, Silk Road.
Yeah. So he was telling me about Silk Road and how people were using anonymous money. And I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible, because I'm not a tech guy, but I understand that you generally can't be anonymous on the internet. And although, obviously as I started to research it, I realized that was not a very accurate statement, but it's more, what I say, pseudonymous, and you can maintain your anonymity, but it's more difficult than most people originally perceived. So I started researching it in 2017, and immediately I was sold. Immediately I was like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing that's ever been invented. I didn't fully understand obviously even today, I think I'm learning more and more every day from some of the brightest people in this space. and trying to grow my understanding of this technology. But I've come to the conclusion that it's the greatest invention in human history.
Mm-hmm. No,
But that
I
wasn't in
agree.
2017. That wasn't where I was at. I was just at the, this is great for banking the unbanked. This is
Yeah.
NGU technology, and that's great. Let's go. Those are good enough for me to get started on my rabbit hole.
So you did you buy in at the peak, or how
I,
did you get in early enough to
I got
ride the
in early
wave?
enough and then also bought all the way up.
So you did buy, yeah. So you had
I bought
some,
every little dip and everywhere. It was all over the place, and was just taking any little dry powder that was coming in and just slamming it in. I just didn't care. I didn't, because I was so new too. I thought, I was like, this is it. We're going.
yeah.
We're never coming back. Like, nobody had come up with the term super cycle yet, but we were talking about hyper Bitcoinization was happening. And, you had John McAfee talking about eating his dick if it went to, or something like that. If it went to a million, I can't remember if it didn't go to a million or something like that. But yeah. So then we get all the way to the top, and there's all this, there's all of this excitement, and the price starts dropping. And I was kind of with everyone else. I was like, oh, this is just another correction. And then the realization starts to set in, and you were like, okay, so this is not a straight upward line. And unfortunately for me, I wish I had been a little better about being mentally ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the bear market came and it lasted so long, I didn't think it was going to last that long. I could have put myself in a position to become more productive and make some more money and buy some more cheap sats, which I really missed out on the bear market. And that's why I'm, secretly hoping and praying for another prolonged bear market before we actually get to the super cycle or hyper Bitcoinization, because I am trying to reboot some stuff so that I can bring in more revenue and buy more cheap sats, hopefully this time around. I mean, I still consider it cheap, but you know what I mean? I just don't want it to go to a million, or, 200,000 or a million. All of a sudden it's like, wow, it's just the amount I'm buying at that point has such a small impact on my stack.
Oh yeah. If I could get rates for, like, if we could stick at 40K for the next like 2 years,
I'm happy.
Then I'll feel like I'll have been able to stack, like, close, not like an original, like an OG, but
Well, of course.
maybe stack as well as somebody in like 2016 or something like that. I'm shaking out the couch cushions, and as we speak, and like,
exactly.
just, looking at everything, like, do I need that anymore? Like, no, let's get rid of it. Yeah, it's just
I'm
crazy.
the same, dude. I realized the other day I haven't bought new shoes for like 2-3 years, which I used to buy new shoes like every month. I'd buy a new pair of shoes, and I started to notice that my shoes weren't cool anymore. My buddy's like the shoe guy, right? And we'd always buy shoes, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing, I'm like, man, shoes have come a long way. Like, I missed a few cycles of shoes here because they look way different now. That's the first time it ever happened to me. I noticed that I have old dad shoes basically now.
I know, that's what, like, I'll just never buy the white New Balance. Like,
Settle.
did you ever see that old?
I think I have New Balances on right now, actually. Oh no, they're Asics. Okay, good. What are they called? Yeah. Oh, funny. That's funny. Asics.
They're not. Yeah. They're not like pure white, are they? Like,
nah, they're not pure white. Not yet.
Yeah, I feel like when you get to like the pure white with like jean shorts,
yep,
then you're just like, at that point you've given up. Although I wear Crocs. Like, I'm a violator of the Croc. I wear Crocs all the time, and it drives my wife nuts. Like, she's like,
they last forever though.
Oh yeah, they're great. Like, durable. My last pair, I literally had them for 12 years. Like,
wow. Okay.
And she just kept. So what happened was that they, over this last summer, wore through on the bottom. So I had holes in the bottom. And she was like, all right, we're getting rid of these. And I just was kind of teasing her. I was like, no, we're not getting rid of them. We're keeping those Crocs. And sure enough, they were in the garbage.
No, does your wife, does she throw stuff away?
Things like that, where she was like, this is like, because it legitimately had holes in the bottom of the shoe. And like, whenever that first happened, I just was kind of teasing her. I was like, I'm not getting rid of them. So I wore them for like another week, like, to prove her wrong. I was like, I don't care that my feet are on the ground right now, and then I went to take the garbage out, and they were in there. I was like, oh, I guess that happened.
Yep. Well, I was gonna say because my girlfriend, we've been together forever, but she throws everything out of mine. If she'll throw stuff away all the time. So I was just wondering if I had found someone else with the same affliction.
No, she does. Like if she loves throwing stuff away. It's her
Yes,
favorite thing.
that's what I'm saying. That's the same with
I
my
actually,
girlfriend.
I was like, I've avoided. We never watched Marie Kondo. The what was it, the minimalist or whatever, where it was
No,
like, does
she
this
can't,
bring you
dude.
does this bring you joy? Did this spark joy in your life? And she kept saying, like, when that was popular, she's like, we should watch that. And I was like, yeah, we should maybe watch The Office or something instead.
Dude, you
Because
dodged a bullet, man. That
she like,
Marie Kondo was like running our house for probably 6 to 12 months. We were folding our shirts in a certain way, and I was like, dude, I just can't do this anymore. We were throwing stuff out. I mean, we threw out garbage bag after garbage bag of stuff that wasn't bringing us joy.
yep.
It got to a point where I was definitely starting to lose joy over the process of constantly throwing stuff away. Yeah, it was brutal.
I'm like terrified because right now we're at the very beginning of building a house, and so like we're not going to move right away, um but that means we have a prolonged period of time where we know we're moving, so it's just going to be like once that shovel hits the dirt to break ground on the house, I feel like it's going to be like 6 to 8 months of just like purging everything in our house.
Yep.
And I'm just going to have to like tape me and the dog and the kids down to the floor so that like we don't get swept up in the tornado that comes through. And
That's hilarious. Yeah,
yeah.
we just moved. We just bought a house. That was a horrible experience. Oh my God.
Did you buy it during this phase of like everybody going
Yeah,
crazy and spending?
everybody buying houses. Millennials just were like, wait, I want to buy. I think that what happened was for the first time ever, millennials realized that bad things can happen.
Yeah.
2008, we weren't really old enough to experience the weight of that. I think it was difficult in the sense that it was hard to get a job and
Yeah.
to get paid well, but you didn't really have anyone that was depending on you. We didn't have kids yet, most of us anyways. I'm on the older side of millennials, but there's some that are a little bit older than me that might have had kids at the time, but we didn't have any, like, there was nothing depending on us. We weren't that worried. We were just like, all right, well, cool. It's hard to get a job, whatever. Right. But now it's like, we have jobs, we have kids, we have families. Some of us have homes, we have careers, and we have a vision of where our life is supposed to go. And I think for a lot of us, that was traumatically, for some, broken, because they realized that you can't just perfectly plan your future out, or for some who weren't planning at all is even worse, right? Because they were like, just their whole life was, turned upside down. A lot of people were not saving. I'm a big fan of saving, have been a big fan of saving for a very long time now. And I think though that it really woke them up though. And they realized, okay, I need to like, not just have a vision, but I need to like have the base layer fundamentals necessary in order to build and continue upwards, even if something bad were to happen. So a lot of millennials, I think, got really interested in the idea of becoming stable and having stability in their life. And that included buying a house. That's why I think there was this craze of buying homes, because it's yours, you have it, you're in it. No one can take it away from you. Obviously, unless you screw your finances up, but I think that a lot of them really wanted to settle down, almost like it was this big moment for us. So we decided to, we wanted to buy a house for a long time. We were going to move up the hill, but then after this little vacation that we had, we realized that we liked being closer to stuff. So we moved really close in town, and I love it. I think it's great. We got really lucky. We got a house that is in a really desirable neighborhood, and usually there's an absolute war over those homes, but this home for some reason had, I don't know what it was.
If you hit that right sweet spot, you like, if you get a little bit above the, what I would say, like the normal target for like upper middle class, I feel like when I was looking at the market, if you get like a little bit above that, there's not as many people buying.
It's a huge difference. You're right.
And whereas there's a big difference, like what I feel really bad for, and I mean, I just let people, if somebody asks my opinion, I'd give it to them, but like, people live their life, make their own decisions, but like, I feel like in some of the suburbs where like houses are more affordable and stuff like that,
Mhm.
you're seeing a lot of first time home buyers that are coming in, in a range of ages. They could be, in their 30s down to, like right out of college, but first time home buyers, so they're getting FHA loans where they only have to put down like what, 3% or something like that.
It's something low. I didn't even know you could do it that low.
And it's like, well, where did they recently get an influx of, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000? It's like, oh, the money printer. That's where that came from.
That's a good point.
They got that. So it's like, so they're able to lock themselves into these things that it's like, God, I don't know if you can afford that. But like, I'm just like a hopeful person. So I'm like, I hope it works out for everybody. But I wouldn't be shocked if, there's some kind of bubble burst. I don't know if we'll go into like the, default and foreclosure, because I think at this point the money printer exists to a level that it'll just print everybody out of default and foreclosure and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I assume then you were a fan of the movie The Big Short.
You're gonna probably find this criminal, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my God. So good.
Everybody keeps telling me to watch it. I'm just gonna wait until the whole world is depending on me to watch this movie, and then I'll watch it, and then I can report back to everyone.
It's so good. It's like,
I've heard that it is. Yeah.
Literally, it's like a yearly watch for me. And yeah, we just even like during a business call the other day, we like somehow got on the subject of like Steve Carell's character and how phenomenal he is, and like, yeah. But I was curious because Michael Burry is shorting Tesla, and what are your thoughts on our buddy Elon and all the things that he's done lately?
Oh, I mean, I like the fact that he is bringing so much attention to the market. That's, they say any press is good press, so that's good. But in the long term, I guess you could say that. But in the short term, it's kind of frustrating because I have friends and family that are constantly calling me, asking me why the smartest man in the world doesn't like Bitcoin anymore. What happened? Should I start selling?
The person that tweeted at Adam Back and said, like, you don't know anything. Elon's so smart. How could you like talk against him? And it was like somebody was like, Adam Back, who was literally cited in the white paper for Bitcoin by Satoshi.
Yeah, he don't know nothing. Yeah, he's clueless. I think that's happened a couple times with Adam, just because he's so he's so well known. Yeah, he's so well known though in the Bitcoin community, but I don't think he doesn't get nearly as much credit as he deserves.
No, definitely not.
I mean, most people have no clue who he is, which maybe he probably prefers it that way. But everybody should know who he is. I mean, he was also what he created like one of the cryptocurrencies that was predated Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. That led to Bitcoin success, right?
Was it Bcash or
DigiCash?
I forget which one he did.
Was it E something? eCash?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Sorry, Adam. It's probably blasphemy that we don't know that right now. But yeah, he's a pivotal
rock star in Bitcoin, but outside of Bitcoin, it's like, this person like that worships Elon, like has no idea.
Yeah, I've said before, I tweeted this out, that Elon's 4D chess, his greatest accomplishment is convincing like half the planet that he can do no wrong. I mean, he really has people convinced that he can't make bad decisions, which is great for him, but it's insane really when you think about it. He doesn't understand Bitcoin, or he, like I said, he could be intentionally 4D chessing for, trying to bring eyeballs. Maybe he just understands it's the way. Maybe he's so smart, and we're all just, we all just need to bask in his glory. But I don't like it. I think that he's definitely putting words in the mouths of the people that are that are getting ready to attack Bitcoin next, which is the energy people, the energy FUD people, the eco-environmentalists that want to make sure that we don't use any energy whatsoever, and that you're somehow evil if you use Bitcoin. I think that that's a real fight. And I think that we're going to have to deal with the public blowback, which I mean, Bitcoin will survive and it'll carry on. I'm not worried about that, but it's not going to be fun to have to deal with people trying to shame me and guilt me for being a Bitcoiner especially after I've become so public about it. So I'm not a big fan of that aspect of it. I do think though he did trigger the conversation, which, you could say that's a good thing, but I would have rather it not been done in that manner. I just think the comments that he made are they're going to lead a lot of people astray, especially when it comes to the Dogecoin stuff. I tried to tell the Doge people were trying to talk to me, and I was like, you guys, listen, you really can't do this stuff on the base layer. It doesn't matter that you have 10 times more, whatever, 100 times more. Like, global payments don't work on the base layer, and you have no developers working on doing a layer 2 or any other solution to fix this problem. So a lot of people are, buying into Doge and thinking that it's going to be the future because Elon said so. So that's kind of unfortunate, because it's physically not possible that it can be the future.
And how embarrassing is it for him to talk about, like, come out and say, I'm working with Doge developers, and then like he has no idea that people can actually look up and see if any developers have been working on it. Like,
there is none. Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you don't even know that it's possible for people to call you on your BS. Like,
right.
That's such a blind spot for somebody that, is coming into this space. Where I feel like, because I'm, basically, as far as investing class of 2020, and it's like we're coming in on this like crash course, and there's just so much information that's out there, and we have such an advantage to everybody else that came before, because we can pick it up quicker. But like, for people like me, it's like I'm picking up a lot, but I'm also like very wary of like even saying anything like I like understand it, or as if I know what I'm talking about, because I really don't, and I think it's like a virtue of, like understanding, like one of the smartest things you can do is be willing to know that, or like understand that you're not always the one that has the answer. You don't know everything, so I see a lot of smart people getting into Bitcoin that are doing that, like sitting there not saying anything, learning, absorbing. And then you have smart people who maybe it's the hubris that gets in the way, and they just have to, show off how smart they are. And it's like, dude, you really should probably spend like a year or two just kind of laying low, reading about this, and then you'll see, because he's going to be so embarrassed if at a later date when he looks back on all the stuff he's spewing out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that you'll see him back. He'll walk it back in a way where it'll look like he's planning this from the beginning. So I think for the most part, I don't think he'll lose any more followers. He'll be like, oh, see, I was 40 chessing this whole time. The other point that you made, though, which I think was really important, if you're coming on the space and you think you're a smart person, or maybe you just perceive that you are generally smarter than the masses, good, that's great. Well, you should take your smart and use it to study Bitcoin and research it and understand it on a deep level before you start speaking about it, because you're going to say something that's going to make you look like a total dumbass. I still say stuff that makes me look like a total dumbass, and I've been more or less researching Bitcoin every day for the last 4 years, which is also why I'm glad I never decided to become super public about Bitcoin or to go online and start talking about it until now, because now I kind of have an understanding of how the whole thing works, how the system works, how the eco space works, how the community works and functions. And the best thing you can do is to just stay humble and stack sats and continue to learn about Bitcoin. I try to do that every day. And then I spend a lot of time now I've been doing Twitter recently. I was researching Twitter for some time as well too. I've always found Twitter very fascinating, and I've been able to use it very effectively to talk about Bitcoin. And I like that platform. And I just think that I would have said a lot of, but it's like etched in stone, right? I think I would have said a lot of stupid stuff that could have, make me look, not just make me look bad, but, spread false information. I'm not a big fan of spreading false information around Bitcoin. I really hate the idea of causing someone to lose money. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with what Elon did, was that he's going to lead people down a path that will cause them to get wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's like you in your hesitation to go like public about it is exactly how I felt. But I kind of like the reason I decided to do the podcast was I was like, I'm going to learn in public and,
Mm-hmm.
but like also do my best to not be an arrogant ass about it, like Elon,
Yeah.
and, because in theory you could say he's learning in public too. But I think that there's going to be a lot of us that are doing this. So yeah, I was like invited on a comedian's that I know his podcast that called Cash Daddies that they talk about investing in or whatever, and like he was like, Bitcoin. I was like, yeah, I mean, I know it. And so then he introduced me as like the Bitcoin expert. I was like, whoa, 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 no, like like during the podcast.
I think I
was
heard
like,
that part. I was looking it up to see if you had made any appearances.
oh yeah,
That was
yeah.
that was a fun episode. If those guys are kind of funny, but yeah, it was
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah. That was
Never be seen as the expert. Sorry, go ahead. I just thought it was
yeah.
pointed out it was a
No,
good episode.
no, yeah.
You should go listen to it.
Yeah. That was whenever I got to make my comparison of comparing Ethereum to Hydrox cookies and like Oreos are Bitcoin, and they were because people were willing to pay less money to have a cookie that tastes like shit. Um, and that really got a lot of the altcoin crowd riled up. Like I got like that was the first time I got called a maxi pad.
Oh yeah, I've gotten that one a few times. I've gotten some memes written about me for sure. Well, because I went on a Twitter rage because I was like, I'm not typically a fan of attacking. People probably think that's a bullshit lie, but I'm not a big fan of it. But I will do it, and I'll get toxic when necessary. And I felt like what Elon was doing was a direct attack on Bitcoin. And I was telling people, I was like, you can't own a Tesla and be a Bitcoiner at this point. So people were messaging me, and we did this whole tweet thing where people were deleting or canceling their Cybertruck orders. And I think it's just crazy. Like really too, when you think about it, like there's like a literal meme about owning a Tesla as a Bitcoiner because Lambos got too expensive. That was like what happened. We were all like, okay, we need to pick a new car now because the Lambo dream is not really happening for everybody anymore. So we've somehow settled on Tesla as a community. And then he's shitting on us. It's like, we're like one of your biggest groups of supporters. And so a lot of people were selling their Teslas, canceling their Teslas. I'm sure he'll find other people to buy Teslas. It's not like we're going to make an impact, but
yeah,
it's just weird
that Cybertruck is to me like the grossest looking car. It's like I saw somebody post a meme and it was like, how did we go from this to this? And it was like the old like 1930s like Rolls Royce and like all the details and the design, and then next to it's the Cybertruck that's just this like looks like a toaster. Like it's like a toaster on wheels.
It's ugly.
And I'm like yeah, I can't remember if I've told this story before or not, but like my experience buying a Tesla was I was like, oh yeah, I mean, hey, it's good for the environment, so probably should do that or whatever. So I go down that road, we're looking for an SUV, all that kind of stuff. And then I was like, there were like tax credits you could get and all this kind of stuff. And I was talking to like the Tesla dealer, like he was explaining the tax credits, and it just became too much of a headache. And I was like, I don't even care if it's like free money from the government. I really don't. I just want the car that I want. And I ended up buying a Land Rover instead.
I love Land Rover. Did you get did you get a Range Rover, or which one did you get?
Yeah.
I freaking love Range Rovers.
It's like, I mean, it's not bad. It's like 25 miles per gallon. It's not
Mine's
bad
way
for
worse
SUV,
than that.
but it's like it's just really funny that like I went the opposite of a Tesla. It was like, oh, here's the gas guzzler that is like meant to go off-roading and like over like pleasant terrains. Like I'm picturing these like pastures that are like untouched, and then like this like Land Rover just like plowing through it. So that's what I was like I don't know, but Elon doesn't care about he's all for those tax credits, so I guess.
He loves that. He loves government subsidies. He's been living off that the whole career, man. It's like that's the only reason he's competitive.
Right? Do you think they're going to get crushed when they can't sell the tax credits anymore?
I don't know. It's despite everything that I'm pissed off about what Elon does right now. The guy somehow keeps surviving, and I don't know if it's an Enron situation where the whole thing just freaking explodes one day, and we're all like, "See, we told you all along. Of course, this was going to happen." But he somehow keeps continuing. And people have been trying to short his company for years and unsuccessfully. And I mean, you see what's happening with SpaceX and the success he has over there, and it's really, I don't think it's, and it's kind of like he's kind of an enigma in a sense. So I don't try to make predictions, but I wouldn't be surprised if things came to an end. And maybe that's why some people have this debate. Maybe that's why he started flooding Bitcoin and started saying, "Oh, yay, let's get a carbon tax." Yeah. Like saying all these things so that he could put his thumb on the scale and try to hopefully continue to get credits from the government or whatever entity to be able to continue doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just crazy, like to even see those cars as being technically better for the environment. I mean, the amount of cobalt and lithium that they dig out of the ground. I mean, you guys got to go look at the photos of the mines and the devastation to the planet that is caused by this process. It's, and the electricity that they're using, what is it like in America? At best, like 20% of the mix comes from renewables in any given place. So the electricity that they're burning is still coming from fossil fuels. It's still coming from hydrocarbons. Like it's all a market. It's all marketing. That's the craziest part about it. It's just that he's an extremely intelligent person who also is really good at marketing. So I don't know. Is it all going to come crashing down, or is he going to be our permanent overlord? Like, it's really hard to tell. We live in this like clown world where your company doesn't even need to make money to be, have your stock price go up. The same thing happened with Amazon. They weren't making any money and now they're making all sorts of money. So I try not to be, I'm not a trader. I try not to predict markets too much. I just try to buy assets that I know are going to go up in value in the long term and maintain their value and hold them for the long term, because it's the only way to really survive. And I just pretty much do that predominantly with Bitcoin. But I don't know. What's your opinion on it? What do you think about Michael Burry? He could be accurate. He could be right.
I hate to bet against the guy that predicted the housing crash, and predicted it. Like, I think he even started hinting at it in like 2002, like on message boards and stuff like that. And then I think he actually took his position in like 2005, maybe. The dude's smart, but the thing that makes me hesitate is he hasn't embraced Bitcoin yet. He just, I'm like, how can somebody be that smart and not understand the value proposition here? But I think he's one of those people that gets stuck in the, like, it's an imaginary thing. It's not real, What are your thoughts on like, I do think ultimately, to answer your question, I do think he will be right. I think, because now the electrical vehicles for like Ford and everybody else are coming out. So they don't need to buy the credits anymore. And Tesla's not going to be profitable. So the way out of that is they're either going to run out of cash, or Elon's going to have to, he's either going to have to start selling a bunch of cars, which isn't probably going to happen, or he's going to have to, convince a lot more people to give him money, and maybe get some more cash. I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing that I have, the arguments that I've heard that seem logical in any way of how he survives, is that he's so far ahead. Like, this is the debate that they make. They're like, Bitcoin or Tesla is so far ahead of everybody else that they are going to sell their batteries and they're going to sell the software that they use to other companies. I think there was another guy on one of my rooms one time that came in. He was really smart. I can't remember his name, but he seemed like he had a huge following. I was like, man, this guy must be close to what's going on. And he was talking about how Tesla's also going to take all the data that they're getting from all those cars driving on the road all the time, and they're going to turn it into some form of like new Google Maps, and that they'll have so much more data on the road than Google Maps ever has had. Because they do that where Google Maps, where you can kind of see and you can look around, but you have these cars driving by like over and over and over again. They'll have like live updated versions of. So they're talking about launching an app like a Tesla Map app that will just crush every other app out there. So I don't know. It's all like pipe dream stuff right now. It's all like in the future, this and this, but that's kind of like what Bitcoiners do too. We're always like, well, one day Bitcoin will be a medium of exchange, right? And we can see that future. And I don't know, maybe we just don't see the future with Tesla because we're not close enough to it. So, but then there's really smart people like Michael Burry who are close to it and looking at it and also don't see the future. So hard to say.
Put $500 million down on shorting it. So
it's crazy.
It's I wish
it's like 40% of his, I think his hedge fund. It's like 40% of their money.
Yeah. He's
it's nuts.
He goes all in. When he goes for it, he goes for it. So yeah. So the how did you get into like, podcasting, everything? I know you mentioned you didn't.
Oh, sure.
So how long have you been doing the Smart People Shit podcast?
Yeah. I mean, I launched, what did I do? Launch my first episode. Probably got it up here. I mean, it's been like a month, maybe. I got to see this. Let me see over here on my stuff that I got. It's been a little over a month. I've had really, looks like my first April 18th or something like that. Looks like, yeah. So it's been about a month. It's just over a month. I've had a really good response. Lots of growth, and just really excited about it. I like to talk. So I spent a lot of time talking, but people get bored of your friends and your family members. So I always figured I would get into podcasting or some maybe like a TV show, radio show. I'd never really put my thumb on it, but I was like, well, podcasting's easy. You can start it up for basically nothing and get lots of great practice. But I started talking to my buddy. We were doing just back and forth, just kind of practicing in person. And then Clubhouse came across my radar, and that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It was probably about 3 months ago. About 3 months ago. And I proceeded to spend hundreds of hours on that app talking to people about Bitcoin almost entirely, but also we sometimes have those side rooms where we're just bullshit. We're like, all right, no more Bitcoin talk. Let's talk about something else for a little bit. Yeah. But it really honed my skill. It enabled me to be able to speak much more fluid. I don't even think I'm that great of a speaker, but it really had a big impact on my ability to carry conversation, carry dialogue. I used to have horrible stage fright. So even the fact that I was able to get up in front of 300, 400, 500, I'd have rooms with 1,500 people in them sometimes, and be able to speak and not just like totally freeze up was really big for me. So I had a really big impact on my ability to speak and not get overwhelmed, and just be able to learn about Bitcoin because I'd hear other people talk about it, and see what they're saying, adapt the way that I speak about it, and also increase my understanding of Bitcoin. So I did that for a long time, did that for like 3 months. Just like woke up every day, got on Clubhouse. As soon as I got back on Clubhouse, it was constant. Like I was on there for 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. And that helped me build an audience. It helped me to get access to guests. And I think that when you're podcasting, those are the two most important things, but it's really hard to get both at the same time, right? Because you could have, let's say, you're just connected and you have the guests, access to the guests. Well, that's great. But if nobody knows who you are, and Kobe made a joke about me the other day too, Crypto Kobe, I poked the bear, and he was like, is it really a podcast, or is it just a tape recording if no one listens to it? I thought it was a pretty funny joke. Yeah. But he's right. You need to have the guests and you need to have the audience. And how do you get both together? Right. So the Clubhouse was a big part of getting the audience and the guests, because I gained familiarity with a lot of people in the space. I was able to get Peter McCormick on as my first guest. Went great. Loved it.
How'd you snag that?
I don't even know, dude. He
reaching out to him, and
it was so random. I don't even think he won't even DM me now. Like, I'm just like, he must've just like had been having a good day and feeling like he wanted to be nice to someone on Clubhouse. But it was great. It was a great interview. I like the guy. I love the content he puts out. I think that he does an amazing job with his show, and I try to model some of the stuff that he does. I also love that he's down in El Salvador, which is where my parents are at right now. That's where they've lived for the last 10 years, oddly enough, is 45 minutes from Bitcoin Beach. They've known Mike Peterson for 7 years, and that's how I got Mike Peterson on my show. He came on Clubhouse one day. He had been spending a lot of time on there, so he roughly knew who I was. Maybe like I was on his radar at least when he was in the room. Maybe not. Maybe that's maybe it's hubris. Yeah. But I DM'd him and I said, hey, because people would ask me to. They said you should interview Peter. You should interview Peter McCormick. And I was like, okay. So I DM'd him. I said, hey, people want me to interview you, and he was like, right now. And I said, well, not right now. Like, let's do like a one-on-one. And then he was down for it, and we did it. Me and Peter had some things in common on the show. He had a partying phase where he liked to do drugs, and we had the same drug of choice, and we both had medical problems that arose from overusing that stimulant. And his was was it STV? It's not a heart attack. He was saying it was some other, but it's a cardiovascular event, and that's what stopped him from using. And for me, it was epilepsy. I have a severe form of epilepsy that I've done a lot of work to overcome, which is why you'll also notice on my show I do health, fitness, kind of biohacky type stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was my very first one. It was great, but it was kind of like, when you first do anything, you don't do a very good job of it, or you don't do as good as you could have done.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just went through the questions, and there was some back and forth, but he's just a good guest. He's a good talker, mm-hmm. and people enjoy listening to him. There was a ton of people that came in the Clubhouse, and then I recorded it and then put it up on my first episode. Then I did a philosophy one with a couple of philosophy professors, Bradley and Craig. That was a good one. Really enjoyed some deep thinking stuff there. Then we've had on Corey Clipston and from Swan Bitcoin, founder mm-hmm. of Swan Bitcoin. He was gracious enough to come on. I really appreciated that. He talked about So if you like Plan B, I mean, Corey ripped that model apart. I don't know if you guys, you and your audience knows this, but
I know Corey is a fan of Plan B.
He's not.
I like the model, but I mean, I'm also of the belief that it can get blown up, kind of like Michael Saylor said. You know what I mean? Like, there's external factors that we don't know about, but
exactly.
But anyway, so Corey on your show,
so he ripped it apart. I mean, it's not even that; it's more just that the model itself is totally invalid. Like he was explaining it to me and how it's highly autocorrelated. I mean, these are all terms that I'm like learning new myself. I'm not a model builder. I don't even know what the term is for someone who builds models, but the math is wrong. It's all over the place. He said it's just total garbage, total trash. I mean, you can go to the 52-minute mark in that episode, skip everything else. It's just an interview up to that point and listen to what he has to say about Plan B, and you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, that it's a bad model and that it's dangerous as Bitcoiners to support narratives that are false narratives. That's how we got the block size wars, was a false narrative that Bitcoin is for payments. And that's where I think it's important that we're careful and that we make sure that we're not supporting things that are, just because they're on our team, quote unquote, that we're not going out of our way to support that person and what they're professing. I mean, he makes the debate and the argument that Raoul Pal and his ability to affinity scam Bitcoiners happened because of Plan B and supporting Plan B and Plan B coming on a show. And he made this whole thing out of it. But anyways, go listen to it if you're interested in stuff like that. Later on, then I did Daniela Cambone. She was the moderator for the Frank Giustra, Michael Saylor debate. Mm-hmm. She's incredible. Absolute powerhouse. Mother to twin babies and still just killing it over at Stansberry Research. Mm-hmm. And they do a lot of the precious metal markets, but she's becoming a massive Bitcoiner, and she made the statement that she's going to add more Bitcoin to her portfolio on the show. So I was happy about that.
Well, that's cool. And so you built your following then. I mean, because you have like 5,000 followers now on Twitter, something like that.
Yeah, just a little over that. And I did that in about 3 months. But I told you I've been
from Clubhouse.
Well, no, but also so the base layer of my following comes from Clubhouse, but there's not actually a ton of carryover there. There's enough to where I was getting enough likes and retweets to get the tweet off the ground, mm-hmm. and which is important. But I've been studying Twitter from watching crypto Twitter, Bitcoin Twitter, but also from watching political stuff, because I was highly, engaged as far as watching what was going on from 2016, from, Trump's whole movement upwards and how he used Twitter to to grow
become
his following
president.
and basically become president. So I I'm not like amazing. Like I honestly, I put out a lot of tweets and a lot of them just epically fail. And I wonder if I should just quit and give up on Twitter because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But for some reason, every once in a while, one of them pops off. I've had tweets that go really pretty viral, and I don't know. I really honestly don't know why. Some of them are terrible tweets. Probably things I should have never said in the first place.
Yeah. I'm like, if people that follow me on Twitter, like you're one of the few, they probably think that I have like a terrible Twitter game. I just actually don't care. Like if I was planning on, if I was doing this for business, I guess I would have to like hire somebody, because first of all, I don't understand what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also I also don't care. I get like dangerously apathetic about stuff where it's just like, and like my wife was like, well, why are you doing the podcast? I was like, honestly, so I can learn. Like I'm doing it so I can learn. Might
It's
as
a great
well record
networking
it.
tool.
Yeah, might as well record it, throw it up onto a place where other people can listen to it. I'm kind of blown away that people actually listen to it. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I'm like,
It's awesome.
I put like an episode up with Guy Swan going,
He's
like we were
great.
just talking about Taproot and kind of explaining what that was. And that one like blew up. Like people were just all over it. And I'm like, I can't believe, like there's time, like the thing that blows me away is the number of people that listen to the podcast before I even tweet about it. And I'm like, what? Like there's somebody that's like like they just organically, they're finding this like every time. It just blows my mind. I guess it means they're subscribers, or I don't know.
I think it also is the search function too, because I've noticed that when I'm looking at podcasts, a lot of times I type in names, and I think like the latest episode with that name comes to the top, like no matter what it is. So if, like, for instance, Guy Swan has a massive following, he has his own following. So if someone goes and types in Guy Swan, like boom, you're right. But also I'm sure you have subscribers. I mean, you have, obviously I'm a subscriber, and you have people that are, as soon as it comes out, they're seeing it come across their desk and they're, deciding to listen to it or not. But I think also that's why it's important to get names on there and get them, actually in the front of the title as well. I think that's a big part of the search function on some of these podcast things. But yeah, no. So with Twitter, it's like,
I could probably learn from you how to have a better Twitter game, or
I mean, I could teach you. I'm not. I should be nicer on Twitter. There's a ton of people who already hate me, because I say things I probably shouldn't. But I don't know.
That's probably my problem is I'm too nice. I'm like,
yeah, probably.
Like,
I mean,
I just let people off the hook. Like there's this guy.
Yeah.
I'll look up it. He tweeted this morning, and I was just like, what was that conversation? Oh God, I just liked the most random thing by accident. This guy who like I don't know how I came across, but he was talking about, like, his tweet was, none of the Bitcoin defenders will point out things that Bitcoin does that an app like Venmo cannot do better and cheaper. It's just so funny. It's like, that is such a stupid argument. Like you're trying to say that like Venmo, like I was like, okay, he just doesn't get it. And and so I basically said that back to him, and he was like, it's a terrible store of value, blah blah blah. And then like I was like, I could just crush this guy. And I guess in theory I'm doing it right now on the podcast.
crush
But like,
him.
because he said he will point out the things that Bitcoin does that an app like Venmo cannot do better and cheaper. And he spelled cheaper CHEEPER. And
Careful, he might be. That's him trying to troll you. People will spell things wrong on purpose just to get people's attention. I swear to God.
I actually do that sometimes.
What did you say to him though? Did you message back?
Yeah, I was like, it's because Bitcoin is not meant to be a payment system; it's a store of value. Bitcoin payment systems are in the second layer, i.e., Lightning Network. Why is this so hard to understand? And he said, it's a terrible store of value. It provides no income, no interest, no utility value, and is virtual uninsurable against theft. Why is this so hard to understand? And I was just like, and then he brought up like the tulip,
gosh.
bubble, and I said, the tulip, which has a finite supply and is teleportable. And it was just like, I could have just really teed off on him. maybe I should start doing that on Twitter. I don't know. If you're one of my subscribers or followers, um let me know if I should, because I when I go, like I have this penchant when I go, I'm like I'm calm, and then whenever I go, it's like
Yeah.
a baseball manager flipping out on an umpire, and
Yep.
like I had like
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'm the
like
same way.
like Christian Bale, like on I don't even know if you know my background, so like I'm a movie producer and all that kind of stuff, and and the so there's the Christian Bale thing where like on the Terminator movie where he flipped out on like the cinematographer. I don't know if you remember that, and like there was the recording of him like just going off, and
I
like
believe I've seen it before, but I'll watch it again right now and see.
but
Go ahead.
I had my like multiple Christian Bale moments on set, and even they were like whenever I was like the lowest man on the totem pole, and I just didn't care. Like I like the one guy, I literally like threw my hat on the ground like a baseball like manager, and like got in his face like nose to nose, and but anyway, so funny story. So my wife knows this about me, like because I'm I think generally a nice person, like get along with everybody. But if you deserve it, if you deserve to get like torn to shreds and you push me far enough, then it'll happen. So much so that on my brother-in-law, the day of my brother-in-law's wedding, so my wife's brother, um, and so we're getting a new sister-in-law, and I look at her as like a little sister, like another little sister, and I'm very protective. And the day of the wedding, the hotel that was supposed to have a shuttle to the venue, they like called and said we don't have one, like we never booked it, which was like obviously somebody made a mistake, they didn't want to admit it. So I'm sitting over with like all the guys getting ready, and my wife comes over and she says, I need you. I'm like, what? And she's like, so the shuttle's not gonna booked for some reason, and like we don't want Morgan to just like have a breakdown and like start crying and get upset, because people can't get here. And I would just looked at her. I was like, I nodded, like I knew what she meant. I was like, you need me to call them and tear them a new one? And she was like, yep. And so like I just like cracked my knuckles. I was like, all right, here we go. And I was ready
Yeah.
to like get into it. And yeah, and then I got over there and Morgan was there on the phone and she was like, oh, thank you so much. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. And I was like, what?
Nice.
And she's like, oh, I got it handled. And I was like, man, that person got off so easy. She was like, were you about to rip them apart? I was like, yep. But she was sitting there like, okay, thank you so much. Like she's so polite and kind. And I was just like, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe what do you think? Should I be meaner?
You definitely
Only
got to
when
be
people
willing to
deserve
stand
it.
up for, and there's a couple things to Twitter. I mean, you can be meaner. I don't like to be too
Yeah, I can't be
mean.
mean, but like if somebody is gonna be if somebody's gonna be an asshole, then they deserve it.
I mean, it just depends. Like, I honestly, I just like to mess around. I just like to have fun on Twitter, and I like to see what'll work and what won't work. And to me, it's more like a game sometimes. And I treat it like that, but I'm also trying to for the most part, put out good information. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the best things that you can do on Twitter is especially in the Bitcoin community, is to build good narratives. So if you're really good at making excuses, then that's a really great way to get a Twitter following. For instance, like when you're talking about what Elon was doing, I came up with the narrative that maybe he was fudding Bitcoin because he realized that Bitcoin mining was competing directly with his battery division, because people won't want to pay for and store their energy on his batteries when they can sell it to the Bitcoin now. Yeah, immediately turn it into money. And that took off, right? So people like that, right? Because it's almost like
I mean, it's kind of like
you're like making people realize something extra. Like, so my mom always said when I was young, I'm very good at coming up with excuses. So I try to utilize that power to give Bitcoin excuses, but it's easy to do, right? Because it's like, I'm not just making stuff up. Like it clicks in people's minds and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of that. I try not to be too mean too often or say bad things too often, but I do it a little bit just to, sometimes it's just because I feel like I'm just want to blow off steam a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't try to, my biggest thing is I just go out of my way to not do anything that will get someone wrecked. It's like the only thing I really care about. Like, I'm not going to give someone advice that's going to make them And typically I don't directly attack people. Like like if someone's engaging with me on Twitter, like I'm not going to be like, have fun staying poor and, you're an idiot or whatever. Like I'll either talk to them and tell them that they're wrong and why, exactly the way you did. You're like, why is this so hard to understand kind of a situation? Or I won't engage with them at all. Like I'm not going to like fight with random people on the internet. I don't waste too much time in my mentions.
Yeah.
Unless a tweet blows up, then maybe I do sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny. But I'm just like, I don't know. I probably won't be ever good at it. So if this podcast, people keep listening to it, and for some reason I need to have a Twitter game, then I'll probably just have to hire somebody because I have
Don't do that.
like,
don't hire someone.
I
have the personal touch.
Yeah, but I'm so like I said, I care so little. Like where
That's good.
What always goes through my mind is the in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. If you ever seen that movie, and Russell Brand, he's like the pop star or whatever, and
yes,
and Jonah Hill gives him this CD, and he's like, hey, Jonah Hill's like, hey, did you when you listen to my CD, did you get it, and Russell Brand, this is my like inner monologue for so many things in life where he's just like, oh yeah, that's right, I went to listen to it and then I just carried on living the rest of my life. and, and then Jonah Hill just like leaves and like runs away. So I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good like thick skin thing to have. But yeah, I'm just like, because I'm doing the opposite of you. Like we're moving, like I wanted like acreage. I wanted, as Daniel Prince told me, he was like, you're trying to have the Citadel life, aren't you? Like it's just like kind of like I got kind of spooked by the supply chain. So like I want to be self-sufficient. Power grid could go down, I'll be fine. I'll use an Elon product. I'll use Starlink if that's floating around, and I can.
It's a good product.
If I can get an internet connection, well water, and raising animals and all that. I mean, yeah, I'm going so far the opposite direction. It's bizarre because you would have never pegged me as a country person. I wanted to have an entire asphalt yard whenever I was a kid. I'm not kidding. I told my parents that. So I want my entire yard when I'm a grown up to be like a street, so I can like play hockey on it, play basketball, all that kind of stuff, and also I didn't have to cut the grass. And now I'm like gonna have a pasture. I'm like, I don't know. It's just what the pandemic and everything has done to me, where I'm just like, I just want to be left alone and carry on living my life.
Yeah, I think that's happened to a lot of people too. And then like, especially, I don't know. I think there's like this potential for Bitcoin to kind of reverse the flow when it comes to the trend of people wanting to live in the city and be in dense population urban areas. I see a lot of people that want to move out and get away from that. And I think that remote work and things like Starlink make it easier than ever to remove yourself from the dense urban areas where all the crime and violence and riots are happening. So I see a world where that's really, possible. A lot of Bitcoiners really want to move. They tend to be like that. I don't know if it attracts that type of person or if it makes people more, because like, for instance, yourself, you're saying it seemed to have an impact on you, maybe not just Bitcoin, but
pandemic,
everything that's
Bitcoin,
going on.
And yeah, everything. I think we were always like leaning towards getting further away from the city. But in my mind, I was like, we'll just be like kind of some suburban neighborhood or whatever. And and yeah, it's the complete opposite, where we're like, it's like used to be a cornfield. Like that's what it was. It's like,
you're gonna start growing corn. You're gonna be a farmer now.
I actually we do want to eventually have some corn stalks, and like
That's
chickens,
awesome.
goats, and we'll start with chickens. Goats is like the next level. Like you have to be a little prepared for that.
I don't know. I've heard the chickens can be difficult because everything wants to come and eat them.
Yeah, you have to have them protected, definitely, because they are just sitting prey. Like they're just sitting ducks, basically.
Yeah.
Sitting chickens. But yeah, like my one friend was saying that his parents did that, and like anytime he goes and visits them, they send him home with like 14 eggs, because like the chickens
so
are just
many.
like, you might get like one every other day, but then like they get to a point where like they're popping out like one a day. And if you have like, 5 chickens laying 1 egg a day, it's like,
Wow.
you're gonna have 35 eggs a week. Like I don't think you can consume that many,
I didn't know they
um
produce them that fast.
I think they get to the
That's
point where they do
fast.
once a day. Yeah, they
Wow.
just
Or even every other day is fast. I mean, I didn't know it was that often.
yeah,
No wonder
yeah,
people want them. They just pop out from like food constantly.
I know. And now I'm like thinking it's so cool because like this little town, like you'll have like where we could walk to like go eat dinner at like a family restaurant, like down the country road, and then there's like a little market. And I was like, oh, I guess you could take the extra eggs there, like just be like, hey, do you guys want to sell these? Like I don't know. I have no idea. I'm stepping into a whole new world. Um,
It's exciting,
that
dude.
is completely different. So, um, but yeah, so how did so you were a subscriber of my show, and how did that happen? Like, was it when we got connected you started listening, or how did?
Yeah. Well, first when I first came across your show was I actually noticed it, and then when we started engaging on Twitter, that's when I really started listening to it much more. And then you had invited me on the show, so that's why I was like, and that's when I started subscribing and actually listening to it. So,
Any,
um,
any advice? What do you think? I mean, I'm an open book, so tell me. Go ahead.
I
You think it's
think
good?
I like the style that you do, where it's much more relaxed, and I enjoy doing. I enjoy those kind of interviews. I think I need to do more that way. And you seem like you come up with great questions. Like I don't.
Hmm.
It seems like it runs fluidly, and I'd have to take like a when I listen to people's stuff, like I don't listen to it and go like, oh, that's horrible. Like I'm always listening to it and going, I want to adapt that into my show. And that's one of the things that I
Yeah,
noticed that you do is it's just very relaxed. Like even when you were like, let's just start recording. Like let's just jump into it. Like
yeah.
and that's kind of like I like that style. I like that's kind of what Joe Rogan does. It's like, you just boom, you're in the show and you're going.
Hmm.
So I think you should keep doing that. And
I'm hoping to
maybe
have.
just up your Twitter game and get more people.
Yeah,
That's got to find a way to get the audience somehow. You got to get
yeah.
people to pay attention to you.
Um, I'm hoping to get Joe Rogan on eventually. So
Dude, that'd be sick.
I don't know him directly,
You know someone?
um, but we have mutual friends.
Oh,
Um,
dude, that would be incredible.
so yeah, it's really tricky. Like, well, how me and you got connected was the Tom Brady tweet. Was
That's
that
right. Yep.
was that how we got connected?
Yeah, I believe
Whenever
so.
I was like, I tried to get Tom Brady on, and I
Dude,
actually,
you shoot high. I need to shoot higher, dude. You're like up, you're getting Tom Brady and you're going after Joe Rogan. Like I'm gonna have to like up my expectations of the guests that I can get, because that's you're shooting really high there.
well, and the tricky part is like, so for example, with like a lot of different comedians, like in me being in the entertainment business, so my listeners have heard this a million times, but like I launched a streaming platform, and like our apps will be released this summer, and we just brought investors on board. I might have to bleep this out, and you can't share this part because it's not made news yet, and we're saving it for PR. So we just like finalized our first investment in the
That's awesome.
platform, and we got it all in Bitcoin.
That's incredible.
So
Congratulations.
that is going to be that might be our
That's
theme
super
going
dope.
forward. And I can't believe I actually got them. Like they were like, whenever the idea came up, I was like, we should, honestly, that's what I'd want anyways. And they were like, really? And then like they were like the investors obviously have cash, so they're like loosely invested in different things. And like I went on like a 15-minute rant, and they were like, yeah, no, you're right. And I was like, really?
That's
I
so
was like,
cool,
I couldn't
dude.
believe that. And then they were like, and I told them too. I was like, let's not do it for like the PR. Like if we're doing it, and
Oh yeah, of course.
if we have to, pay. Obviously, there's certain things, but like I'm trying to get, like I just had Sean Culkin on, and I'm gonna try and get. I've been poking Strike for like and Jack Mallers for months, being like, "Yo, I need your services because otherwise I don't know how to do it." Um, like I don't, I just I need to figure those things out. But yeah, like once we release, we'll probably just do some kind of PR release of like, yeah, we I would think people are gonna like that. Um, but anyways, like we we're setting up like original productions and stuff, and so it's like I want to read. There's a lot of people where I want to reach out to, but like we're doing other stuff together. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, do I like ask them to come on the podcast and then also like, hey, be in this movie, or you know what I mean? Like, so I think maybe what I'll do is hopefully as productions start ramping up again and things open up here, maybe I'm hoping I can like snag like different celebrities when they're on like a movie that we're doing or something, and
Could be good access.
just be like, hey, like want to come talk about Bitcoin. The biggest fear that I've got so far is that they don't know a lot about it. So I'm trying to like let them know, like, dude, like I'm like the dumbest person in the Bitcoin space, like as far as like knowledge about it. Like I'm learning. So it's like I'm an open book. I did have an actor friend on. I don't know if you listened to that one, and we talked about it. And like he was grilling me, and I was just like, answering the best I could, Um, but yeah, it's the Tom Brady tweet. I actually did like I hate that because I feel like sometimes they don't actually even consider whether or not the person would want to do it. You know what I mean? Like his reps were like, oh, he's really busy. I was like, okay, I mean, it's the NFL off season.
Yeah.
So like, what's he doing?
What's he real busy with right now? Is he drinking more high alkaline water? No.
Yeah, exactly. Is he sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber for 48
Yeah.
hours? What's happening? I even Paris Hilton was another one.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
That I was going back and
Dude,
forth
I'm gonna,
with
like I said, I'm gonna have to start. I'm gonna start upping my game with who I am. I'm failing my listeners. I gotta start shooting much higher and getting these crazy Paris Hilton, Tom Brady
well,
style Joe Rogan level of guests on my show. I'm not doing good enough.
No, because the trick is too. Then I'm like also really concerned with like, is that what Bitcoiners want to listen to? Like because they really want to hear like Bitcoin conversation. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
well, but I mean, but then you're also attracting a whole nother audience to your show, and you got to mix it up a little bit. Otherwise, you can talk about Bitcoin all day, every day, and there will always be more Bitcoiners. But my advice, I guess, would be, I mean, and dude, don't listen to me too because I'm new, but this is my opinion that you need to have some other like niche. You need to have some other thing that brings people in and attracts people. For me, it's health, wellness kind of stuff. Just because, like I said, I had horrible epilepsy or do have epilepsy, and I've seen massive impacts on my personal health from certain changes that I've made. And that's why I'm attracted to almost like lesser known ways to improve your health. That's why I had like Dr. Jack on. We talked about vitamin D and sun exposure. I'm also going to have my neurologist on. His name is Dr. Glenn Zielinski, and he does physical therapy for brain disorders. So if you have Tourette's, if you have vertigo, if you have a traumatic brain injury, if you have epilepsy, they can actually give you a physical therapy regimen based off of the pattern of your eye movements, and they can determine where the weaknesses in your brain is based off your eye pattern movements. And then they can start stimulating. It's really cutting edge. I mean, it's been out for years, but this guy happens to be in my area, and he is the premier, expert on this form of, I call it physical therapy for brain disorders, right? I don't even think he calls it that, but
it's crazy.
It can have an incredible impact on people.
I remember, I don't know if it was like a family friend or something, or I think it was like a distant cousin's wife or something. And we were at the beach, and somebody told me, they were like, oh, just like if you ever see her like having trouble in the water, like let us know. And I'm like, what? And they said that she has seizures like all the time. I don't know if that's similar to like epilepsy, like if that's like close,
same thing.
But it was like, I was like, well, all the time, like is she just like falling over? And they were like, no, she can like stand there and go through it, and it's like almost not noticeable. Like you have to like look at her eyes to see it's happening. I can't remember who that was. That was so long ago.
Yeah. So mine, I mean, they're very different. This is the problem too, is that why someone has seizures, it can be a wide range of issues or problems in the brain. And it generally has to do with a weakness in certain parts of the brain. But for me, I would have almost like, it would start off like a twitching, like you almost like see like this, like my hand twitching, and then it would be like my arms would twitch, and then it would lead to like full body like twitching to the point where it's like where I'm also kind of like losing consciousness for a split second. And then from there, I would have full blown grand mal seizures where I'd black out and like foaming at the mouth type of stuff. And
Mm.
you're completely unconscious, and then that'll happen, and then I'll wake up, and then I'll realize like what happened, because I can kind of tell that I've, something happened, and I'm typically very exhausted. And like the first time it happened, I it was like almost like I thought I had a stroke. Actually, that was the first time it happened really badly was the absolute worst by far. I've never had one that bad since, although they've been bad. But I woke up like nobody was in the room when it happened, and I just woke up like on the ground, like face up. And because they came in and called came in and called the paramedics, and I just like the paramedics were standing over me, and I couldn't move, and if my face like wasn't moving, and I couldn't talk, it felt like my only like half of my face was working. And so I thought for sure I had a stroke, and because I've had strokes in both sides of my family before, so I fortunately did not have a stroke, but having a very bad grand mal seizure can often feel that way. But yeah, it's pretty brutal. Epilepsy is pretty brutal. I ended up going on pretty heavy medication for a while, and that medication was really messing with me though, and it just had such a negative impact on me that I had to find something else. And that's when I started searching and found this guy. And I mean, it's if you know someone who has any sort of brain disorder, but specifically epilepsy, because it's so debilitating for many people, you absolutely need to be going to see this guy. He works out of an office called Northwest Functional Neurology. I mean, it's his office.
Mm-hmm.
And it's expensive. He doesn't take insurance, but it is pretty incredible the impact that it had on me. And that's why I just tell people every day about it everywhere I go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I think there's an epidemic of people that just take any answer from a doctor, and they're like,
Yep.
okay, well, you obviously know what you're talking about. And they just roll with it. And if it doesn't like work, then they just think that there's nothing that can be done. Um, and you got to really like, I'm a big proponent of, there's still things that like, there's just certain things you can't, like, like Crohn's disease or something. It's like,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
brutal.
think I don't think there's anything that anyone can do really to like fix certain things like that other than taking medication, you know what I mean? But I do believe that there's a lot of things that can be fixed without medication. Like I think we get a little over medicated. Um, just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a
No,
doctor
I agree
at
with you. I mean,
all, but
but Western medicine has its place. It has its place. I mean, especially if you break a bone or
it,
anything like
it
that. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
you
it
gotta,
does wonder.
I
It
mean,
works wonders. It's amazing. Both my
if you need a
parents are
heart
cancer
surgery, like,
survivors. Like
yeah,
it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like it's like this. My parents are cancer survivors. Both are completely fine, and it shouldn't even affect their like long term health. And it's like, but if we didn't have Western medicine, then they would have
yep,
died.
yep.
It's like that's crazy. But there's also I like homeopathic ways, and I assume that's what your type of stuff is like with the therapy and physical therapy and all that.
Yeah. So the physical therapy is like, it's really just eye exercises. They do electrical stimulation to engage certain parts of the brain. They're just trying to strengthen where it's weak. What's funny is that a lot of, when you're looking at the world, your eye, everything looks fluid, right? But most of the time our eyes actually move kind of like this. They don't actually
Mm,
move in a straight line. It's just our brain makes up all of that information on its own. But they can make mistakes, and they can lag too long. And that
mm,
buildup of miscommunication in your brain can lead to misfirings and cause seizures. But so there's no medicine at all. I'm not taking anything. It's actual therapy, like physical therapy on my brain.
mm-hmm,
And that's not the only thing too, though. I've discovered a lot of things along the way. I consider myself to be some of like a biohacker. I mean, I know that's terms like thrown around like kind of ridiculously. I've pretty much tried everything that you could possibly imagine. I've tried, the sauna, cold shower stuff. I've tried all the different diets. I've done keto. I'm going to try carnivore here soon. I'm going to have Dr. Sean Baker on hopefully here soon and do the keto or the carnivore diet where you just eat meat. I've done the macros where you weigh everything out. I've been a weightlifter. I've been a CrossFitter. I've done, all different sorts of different types of things to improve my health. But some of the things that I've tried that I don't think anybody talks about really, doesn't talk about enough, is breath. Being able to breathe through your nose, in and out of your nose, is super important. And it's really important that you're doing it at night, because if you're mouth breathing all night, it has really negative impacts on your health. And I've noticed that nasal breathing it does have a positive impact on me personally, in my health and my mental clarity. I noticed it when I started trying to focus on breathing from when I was doing cycling. I had a hard time. You don't really want to breathe through your mouth, like when you're cycling too much sometimes, because it'll dry you out. And so I was really trying to get focused on nasal breathing. And I found these things that you can like stick up your nose even and like open it up. And they're for cyclists. And after a couple of rides like that, I was like, whoa, I feel way different. I'll even show you one right here. It looks like this. It's this little like yellow thing. It looks like it would be painful to shove up there. It kind of is a little bit, but you get used to it. But I'll even wear them at night, and it has massive impacts on just my mental clarity, my epilepsy. Another big one is consistently waking up every day at the same time. I think people think you have to go to bed on time. No, you need to wake up on time. If you go to bed at midnight, or if you go to bed at 10, but you wake up at 7, like that's more important that you wake up at the same time. So I'm trying out a bunch of different stuff. So that's why, like I said, I could ramble about it all day. I love Bitcoin, but some of the stuff that I've found along the way of trying to fix my own health problems have made a big difference for me. And I think other people would, benefit from hearing about them.
Well, I think you got a really good niche, like a niche audience there, because I've noticed the big crossover between Bitcoiners and people, like, as people become deeper down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin, they find themselves taking better care of themselves, and like becoming
Definitely.
healthier. And it's like, and like me, like going like I'm all for organic. Like I used to tease my wife when she'd get like grass-fed beef, and I would say, is it grass-fed grass? Like, was the grass fed by other grass that was then fed to the cow?
That's
and
good,
like,
dude.
and now I'm
that.
like the opposite direction. I'm like, yeah, no, like I don't want that processed junk. Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, it's just mind blowing. Well, thanks for coming on, Dennis.
Definitely.
And let people know, where can they find you? Where's the best place for people to hear you, hear your show, and then also see you antagonize people online?
Yeah, if you want to see me antagonize people online and generally put out good information about Bitcoin and good narratives, you can follow me on Twitter at the Machine Built. I am on Instagram as well, which is Machine Built, but I don't spend as much time on there. If you really want to engage with me, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. My DMs are always open. Feel free to direct message me on there anytime. Happy to talk conversation with anyone. I'm actually a pretty nice guy. I just like to occasionally blow off steam and antagonize random people on the internet. If you want to watch my show or listen to my show, which I plan to do, I think I'm going to go to video. I'm convinced. I did this one with you, and then I did one yesterday with Eric from the Dumbest Guy show, and he's starting a new podcast as well. And there's something different about the video aspect of all of this that I think I'm missing out on by being on Clubhouse. So I gotta get my video going. But that being said, if you want to listen to my show, Smart People Shit, it is on Spotify. It is on Apple. You can listen to it on all the apps, all the directories, always available. If you want to email me, you have questions, you want to become a guest on the show, you can email me at bitcoincoaching101.com, at gmail.com, bitcoincoaching101@gmail.com. And happy to have people on the show. I'm always looking for people that do health and wellness, but also to get those good Bitcoin guests on. And Tom Brady, right? We're going to get, we'll share him or get Paris Hilton.
And you'll have to like send me a nudge if you ever have like a thing where, do you do just Clubhouse, or do you do like the Spaces too, or whatever that's called?
I've been playing around with spaces recently as well. I just did a room. Well, I was not did a room, but I was in a room with Will Clemente last night. I love Will. That guy makes me feel like I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life at 32, and he's 19 and crushing it. But he puts out some great information. But yeah, I did a spaces with him last night. I've done spaces with other people. I think it's a great.
How does that even work? This makes me sound so old. But how?
Oh, it's you just so like instead of tweeting, you like that button where you push to tweet, you just long press it. And then it will open up 3 different options. And one of them is on the far left is spaces. And you just open it up and you just start talking to people. Typically, like if you're going to start one, like you want to like if you're just starting it out of the blue, like don't just like randomly start a room open, like try to coordinate with a couple people and be like, hey, let's start this. Like me and you could do one. We could coordinate coordinate like a couple other like random podcasters. We could start doing like the podcasters fireside chat type of things, and that would be a great way to get us all helping each other, supporting each other, but also talking about whatever it is for the week. We could do a weekly fireside podcaster chat, since we all love to talk and ask questions so much.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm so bad with all that Twitter game and understanding all that stuff where I'm just like, like, oh, like I don't, it's like, what is this spaces thing? It makes me sound so old. It makes me sound so old. I'm 35, but like you would think sometimes with my technology understanding, I'm like an 18-year-old, and you're like, wow, dude, this guy's crushing it. And then when it comes to social media, like my sister's downloaded Snapchat for me like years ago. And
I'm good on that. I don't like Snapchat.
I never even figured. I opened the app and I was like, I don't know what's happening in here, but I'm just gonna close it, and that's it. That's that.
Yep.
I feel like that. Do you remember that old commercial where anytime I'm on Twitter or anything, there's this commercial where the kids were talking about how like their parents were such losers, and their dad was like sitting on his phone on the patio, and like they're like, our dad has like 1 Twitter follower and it's me, and he's like tweeting and he's like, I'm sitting on the patio, and they're like, Dad, nobody's listening to you. It's like that's how I feel right now, because I'm like, I have no idea. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's like and no one likes to put out that energy to effort on social media and then just it's gone into the wind, right? So
yeah.
I just like Twitter. I'm good at it, but I honestly I'm not good at Instagram. I don't really try to do Instagram.
Maybe I'll just try to be comically bad at it.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
because
exactly.
like I said, with the misspelling things, like I'll do a lot of things where it's like I do it accidentally, and then so I do it accidentally so much, so I'll misspell on purpose. And then like yesterday there was something and my response was few, like which everybody does on Twitter, but I spelled it PHEW.
Dude,
like,
that's hilarious.
And
I'm gonna steal that from you.
I was like, man, I like that got no traction. I don't understand this. Okay,
that's the annoying part about Twitter is it's like I said, you can have incredible tweets that just should absolutely go viral and explode, and the world should be worshiping you. And then, if you don't get enough people to like it in the first 30 minutes, then it's not going to go anywhere. There's like algorithms that pick things up. So if you put something out and no one likes it, then the algorithm will like downplay it and it will like shoot it down to the bottom. But if you in the first, like, I don't know what the timing is actually, I'm not exactly sure, but it seems like it's about the first 30 minutes. If enough people like it and retweet it, it like goes up higher and higher and higher and gets exposed to more and more people and broadens out. So that's what's annoying is like, if you have that's fucking hilarious. The PHEW, that should be like pasted on everybody's walls right now, but it's like, unless enough people,
I'll do another tweet with it so that you can see it, and then maybe we'll get it blasted, and
we'll start coordinating our tweets. I bet people do that. I'm sure they do.
I'm sure. Yeah. The other thing too that I want to do is I'm going to coin this here. If somebody else said it before me, then that's fine. I don't care. But I was like talking to somebody and just like in my personal life about it, and I said that Bitcoin is the separation of purse and state. And I was like, oh, that's going on a t-shirt. I was like, I'm making a t-shirt for that. Because I think people have said that it's a separation of money and state, which it is. But like, I was talking about how like, the different houses of, the government, one controls the purse, one controls this. And I was like, so Bitcoin's really the separation of purse and state, and it kind of like fits with the separation of church and state, I don't know.
No, it's true. It's accurate. And I think it's it's just as important, or if not more important, than when we separated the church from the state. You got to take away power from the state, otherwise the state continues to grow in its power and abuse of that tool. And I think that it's gotten to a point now where we can't continue to allow. I mean, we're closing out here, but like I said, I say Bitcoin is the greatest invention in human history, because for the first time ever, we can defend ourselves from those that want to abuse the money printers. And when inflation and the abuse of money and the debasement of money has been in and around some of the worst events in human history. I mean, just just read the Bitcoin Standard and you can see, you get the Rhinestone, people got fucked. The transatlantic slave trade happened mostly in part because of our ability to print glass, or to create the glass Avery beads and just debase the crap out of their currencies. And then you have Hitler's rise to power because of what happened in Weimar Republic. So, I mean, the collapse of Rome, it's like, look at any bad thing that's ever happened, any major conflict, and it has probably happened because of monetary debasement.
I know. I've been telling people that, and I say, you should be really careful with everybody. Everybody needs to be very careful right now, because we're kind of living a Weimar Republic thing.
Yeah, it's possible.
And then I was watching World War II in color, and seeing how Hitler rose to power, and the fire that was set in the parliament. He just used that to demonize his other side. And I'm not calling one side or the other Hitler.
Sure.
I'm just saying that there was the Capitol riots, and it's certainly being used to demonize people. There was the riots in the cities all over the country, and those are being used to demonize the left. So, I've been telling people, just got to be really careful right now, because both sides are treading in dangerous territory, where, it's becoming so tribal. And my listeners know I'm Ron Swanson, political affiliation. I believe all government is mainly a waste and corrupt. And so, that's
we'll have to have another episode about politics, because I'm a big fan of politics. I'm a big fan of discussing them, and you seem like you have like a more like centrist perspective, in the sense that you're not really like, you just see government and as a whole as a problem. And I agree with that statement.
Yeah, like I actually interviewed Alex Gladstein yesterday, and
oh wow,
and
for the podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to get him on soon. I love what he puts out. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's so smart, and he was like, I'm a fan of the United States at the Constitution, and then like that's it, like not beyond that. And I was like, dude,
it's all downhill from there.
I was like, dude, you are so right. Like that is true. Here, want to see a live tweet? So here, let me see. Should I tweet this? I mean, this is going to be released probably in like a week or so. But I'll tweet. Should I tweet and say Bitcoin is the separation of purse and state, and then underneath it put few with PH? Do you think?
Wait, are you going to tweet it right now, or are you going to tweet it in a week?
Yeah, I'll tweet it right now. Bitcoin is. This is Gripping Podcast.
So, let me see. Let me go to your thing.
The separation.
Yeah, put it out. I mean, I'll retweet it if you put it out there.
I can't even spell right. Separation.
That's right. You're supposed to spell it wrong, remember?
Purse.
That's your thing.
Right. And state. And then I will put few. How can I misspell this? Separation. Because you have to do it so that it doesn't look like you're doing it on purpose. Who's really good at that is if you ever listen to Barstool Sports, what's his name? PFT commenter.
Oh no, I haven't seen his tweets. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, he's really good at it. Like he does it all the time. It fits his shtick. So yeah, I'll tweet that now, and we'll see. Maybe you guys will all have seen this tweet by then. If not, then another swing and a miss. And
there we go. We're coordinating, live coordination.
Yeah, this is how the meat's made. So, but all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. And if you ever want to have me come in, I'll just send me a DM or something. I'll hop into something if I have the chance. If I'm not, in the middle of pitching a T-ball game or
There you go,
something.
Corey. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've had a great time talking with you. I appreciate the laid back style of the interview and just the show in general. You keep going.
Oh, dude, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, if you want to have me on, I'll admit I only got to listen to like 1.5 years. That's why I didn't get to ask you too much more beyond that. Because this past week's been crazy. T-ball season out of control. We have a ton of games and and all that kind of stuff. So I have them downloaded and ready to go. So
I think you'd be the first one to come on an official Bitcoin podcast too. So I got to get you on because I seen you on those other guys', right? You were on that one and then you were on someone else's, but it wasn't an official Bitcoin focused podcast.
What other one was I on? I can't even remember at this point. The weirdest thing was whenever so with T-ball, this one guy, one of the other coaches is a guy I went to high school with. Like both our kids are obviously the same age, and so we're both coaching T-ball, and we were sitting there the one day talking, and he was like, "Hey, do you remember so and so from high school?" I was like, "Yeah, what?" He's like, he called me the other day. He's like, "Were you on some like podcast called Cash Daddies?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, he called me. He's like, "You remember Corey Tuzik? He was on like this comedian." I was like, "That's bizarre." Like, because I like the producer life. I like to sit in that comfy chair behind the monitor and have nobody know who I am. So this is actually, if people see like and think I'm like outgoing, it's the complete opposite. I'm like super shy and terrified of that. If I get to know people, then I'll be outgoing. But like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with being out there. So, but I'll come on your show because I like
it.
You. So,
yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. I've been great to be on the show. I think it was a Bitcoin Audible though was the other one you were on. So that's technically you were on, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, with Guy.
But it was Guy. But Guy was on yours, and it looks like he put the recording of YouTube on his show.
Mine. He asked if he could put it up. He was like, "Do you mind if I do that?" And I was like, "No, get some exposure." And so I joked and said like, "I'm finally syndicated." Yeah, but yeah, man, and I look forward to it. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey. Talk to you soon.